Hi, I'm El Ninja Cupcake.
And I'm Embers Tide, or Embers.
And I'm Jeraika, not your DM's DM, except in the rare cases that I am your DM's DM. And this is Insight Check, where we delve into the dungeon of your bad decisions to retrieve the treasure of wisdom. Welcome, one and all. We have all survived PAX South, I assume. All of us who attended South are absent, so I'm not 100% sure on that, but we wish them well on their return journeys. We hope to see them soon.
I wish them well, but there's a twinge of jealousy that I'm not going to be able to shake.
It sure looked like a good time.
Oh, yeah.
Between that and the barbecue down there, there might be a little resentment.
I saw some lit photos of food, and oh man, I have never been to Texas, but might be in the plans soon.
Right?
I'm pretty sure I saw a cinnamon bun roughly the size of a car engine.
Oh my god.
They have those out here too, so, you know, you can go down there or you can come to Seattle.
So basically, everywhere I'm not, I've made a bad life choice.
Oh no. In terms of cinnamon buns, perhaps?
It's not a metric that everybody uses, but it's a metric.
Occasionally on this show, we talk about what is new and exciting in D&D and board games. So what have we consumed and enjoyed this past week?
I think a lot of it was, I don't know about you guys, but I kind of live my life PAX to PAX anymore. So
I understand that.
We have not only like main game Acquisitions Incorporated, but we had the season 2 premiere of the C Team, which there are many a person that have been waiting on bated breath. There's many a feels. So my highlights from these two games that I'm all about is the main game. I kind of squeed a little bit when Chris Perkins had a self-insert in the game, and it wasn't even like Jerry Cranium Rat insert. It was legit Chris Perkins.
That was legendary, and my children's children will be shown this, and we'll talk about it.
And he was talking about all the crows too. Yeah. It is a thing.
I mean, so like just to stop for a minute, like there are some movies that for me are like indelibly tied to my childhood. Neverending Story, The Dark Crystal, all of these sort of breaking the fourth wall kind of fantasy movies, right? Where the kid self-inserts into the movie and becomes the protagonist. When that happened in the AI main game, 100% of my brain got turned back into an 8-year-old kid. It was amazing.
It was pretty epic. And then the moment of feels with Jim and Chris, where he thanks him for everything. Yeah.
I also really liked, Omen just being Omen and tearing the part of the Tomb of Annihilation book about the soulmonger straight out of the book so that he could have it. It's like pure drawn.
One day I hope there's a little bit of exposition in table talk about how Chris and Jerry communicate, because I really see Chris as bringing Jerry back into the fold of, Dungeons and Dragons in general. And I don't know if that's true or not, but that's totally how it's canonically in my head. And Jerry has done so much since then. The ball has rolled and snowballed and grown and gained momentum and fans. That's an interesting, I'd love to be a fly on the wall of when they go out for tea or whatever it is they do.
Oh, it's gotta be tea. It's gotta be.
Well, I know that Chris Perkins drinks Lipton. He let that slip once.
And the tears of dead adventurers.
Yeah, he must just mainline
That's
that.
what he steeps his tea in.
Well, I think it's interesting is before West last year, you binge content when you're making cosplay. And I had never gone back and grabbed all of like the original podcasts. So I started with the original podcasts of AI and listening to how...
Yes.
I mean, Chris Perkins seemed so formal to me in the beginning. And then you come up to where he is now and he just kind of is like, all right, we can roll with this. Let's see how you kill yourself now.
I mean, I feel like the greatest moment for me, as someone who is lexicographically oriented, was the introduction of Sebastian, who is a talking lizard. I have so many questions about this character. Is he polymorphed? Is it, why is this lizard talking? Is it somehow enchanted? I do have so many questions. But I don't think the lizard was meant to only talk in TION, words that end in TION, but it was suggested at the table, and they ran with it straight to the end of the line.
It was so good.
He will live forever.
I love it.
So yeah, it was a little bit of a PAX heavy. Yes, he does.
And now he's got a Twitter account.
Oh, yeah.
Brings him into the illustrious fold of Twitter NPCs from the AI universe.
I feel like Twitter's probably the best medium for that lizard because short and sweet.
Exactly. He's not going to... oh, gosh. Maybe he will hit the 140 characters or
That'll
whatever.
Be a day.
But main game, and then maybe we could switch over to some C-Team feels.
Of course. Weddings. Beautiful times in the lives of humans and elves.
We are gathered here together. Marriage.
Except, crazy headdress and oh no, it was a crown that had seeds, Nemazir seeds on it that could kill cities. Anyway, this is what the officiant was wearing. So yeah, tell me, Cupcake, about your feels.
After I watched last season live. I was lucky enough to be able to do that. And the last poll was about picking flower colors. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking in my head, what on earth are they going to do with Brahma and flowers? Oh my God, Jerry, you better not kill her.
No, that would stink. No, yeah, it would be a very different landscape if he had started with a funeral instead of a wedding.
But I wouldn't put it past him.
Cathris would have been just as happy, I feel, but...
Oh, I'm sure. But I mean, we still managed to get a funeral into the same episode.
True. A whole procession of 30 funerals. I have to say that I really like the mechanic of teaming C-Team up with Oak. I didn't realize how much Dinar actually likes Oak until this episode.
Like, how did I miss that?
I think he briefly mentioned it, but he was full on Oak romance. But there's so many different all of the C-Team members have different feelings towards Oak, I think. I think, Rosie and Walnut are both real, he's a shifty motherfucker. But Cathris could care less, I feel. Actually, no, I think he... there was some statements made. But I think that's a really interesting dynamic. Obviously, the fan base has some strong feelings towards Oak, I think. And I think it's really interesting just to have them work together. And there's this other element where Oak might be betraying them at any moment. And they might also now be betraying Oak at any moment. So it's not clear what is happening, what is reality, when they're going to get locked in a pit that they can't get out of. Who knows?
It's the beauty of the game.
I definitely thought it was very interesting that they started it with a missive from the Secretarian to pair up and help Oak find Brahma. And then they get one from Omen saying, hey, not a great guy. He doesn't work for us anymore.
They get one from OHD.
That's true.
We assume that's Omnifus Hereward Drawn. It doesn't say it explicitly. I assume that it's supposed to be, obvious, but since they didn't put Omen or something obvious on it, I don't know. I'm questioning everything, as you can tell. I'm in, Twilight Zone hell.
This is just how Jerry wants it to be.
Yes, exactly. I know. Right into the trap. But I have to say, the costumes were so good. I adored the staff of the Master that Kate carried as Rosie. Amazing. As Cupcake and I were talking before, and she said that it reminded her of Sailor Pluto's staff, and I was like, yes, that is That is the aesthetic that I want. Yeah, it was so good. And all their costumes were amazing. You could see the iteration from PAX Unplugged to this game, all the improvements, the upgrades. Danny Hartel just continues working and doesn't stop. Yeah, it was just really awesome. And Amy Falcone's eyelashes.
I'm sorry.
God, she's so gorgeous.
I couldn't shut up about that. And this is the sort of thing that I'm always very self-conscious about, because any jackass can tweet at a cast member of any
Yep.
show, large or small, that they love, and the cast, they can either make their account private, which most I think don't want to do, or they can endure the fawning of their fandom.
Yep.
And so I just came out, I was like, what the fuck is up with those lashes? Those are incredible.
They were, excuse my language, banging.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just want my lashes to look like that all the time. Yes, indeed.
I feel like that would lead to a better life.
I think so.
I was playing, and I'm still playing, the game of Are They Real?
Did you see the reply? We're going to
No.
go straight down the rabbit hole into unknown territory here. Sorry for anyone who doesn't care about eyelashes. But I believe she replied to Embers and said that they were extensions. So I think it's
true.
like
It's true.
perhaps a liquid that extends the eyelashes. That would be my guess.
I've had extensions. I didn't realize that that's what those were, but if they are, they're really good ones. So I'm gonna have to find out where she went.
Danny
totally
Hartel
agree.
could probably tell you.
Yeah.
Probably.
I agree. Danny's work iterating on the costuming work for the C team is amazing.
Just like the fact that she turned the Dinar head into a toy for Ryan that he can like throw back and throw in front. Yeah, so good.
That costume fits him very well.
Yeah, it does.
Definitely. All righty. Sometimes on this show, we answer questions, and this is one of those times. Aren't you excited? We are going to answer a few questions this week, specifically about the stuff of D&D and organizing it effectively.
Accessorizing.
Yes. There's things that you need specifically as players and as DMs to play the game of D&D. We're going to talk about those things, and then we're going to also talk about perhaps ways to organize them as the groundswell collection of these things amasses as you get more and more addicted to the game, the wonderful game of D&D. And I would like to start with just another little mini dungeon crawl of something I saw this week, which I think came out 2 weeks ago. The most recent episode of The Friendly Table by Holly Conrad, or Commander Holly on YouTube, came out January 5th. Talked a lot about this. So she set up exactly what the players need for their first game of D&D, and I'm going to go through it real quick. Please watch the episode. She is the most adorable person in the world, and she
is in fact magical.
Is so relatable. And she is really good at explaining it. There is even a little animatic. Like, she explains how the rules work with pictures, and it's the cutest thing ever. Okay, so according to Holly Conrad, who's got some experience, the things that the players need for D&D is a set of the basic rules that can be found on wizards.com. And this would be if you don't want to fork out for a player's handbook right away, but the player's handbook would be the next thing you need. All right, so the rules, a set of dice, which include different kinds of dice. So there's like a D20, a D12, a D8, a D6, a D4. So there's like a couple dice in the set because they do different things. And Holly Conrad will tell you exactly what those things are. And then the other things are a character sheet that has your character on it, either before it would be blank, or after you make your character, it would have the stats on it. And then, last but not least, the most important thing, snacks.
Oh my god.
Definitely.
Yes.
I 100% agree with Holly. I think these are all really important. I also, for me at least, when I'm playing, I like to have scrap paper and a writing utensil so that I can write down especially like names or things that I have to get or things I have to remember because my brain doesn't remember these things. What about you guys? Do you have any specific things that you like to have as players?
Yeah, totally. And I think we should get back to the snack question because that is vitally important. But gotta have so when I started playing, I like 13, and this was AD&D 2E. So you could go to your local Walden Books and they would have like a generic dice set and player's handbook. So that's kind of all I started out with. And we had one friend who got the player's handbook. We had one friend who got the DM guide. All we really had were the basic character sheets, mechanical pencil, paper, and one set of dice that we tried to make work. I think that it's advantageous to get more organized because I think since then it's gotten a lot more digitized. So the stuff that I kind of have to have with me now, definitely the paper and pencil remains the most valuable. Draw maps, make notes, doodle. I'm terrible with names, so I always try to write down every name I see. And so Haley is amazing at organizing.
She sure
and
is.
She and I went through
Queen.
a DM conversation. She clued me into some resources online. Actually, now I use little blank stickers. So for my character sheet, I'll actually put on removable stickers. And I did it for fun, and now I do it out
Really?
of just a violent addiction.
Wait, I'm sorry. What do you use the stickers for exactly?
So if you could imagine playing at a table where you had minis and maps, some people use stickers to track conditions. Some people use stickers to track initiative. I usually do conditions, initiatives, charges for items or weapons. I really don't like messing with the text on my sheets. So if I'm using like spell slots or spell cards, I'll sometimes use stickers for that too. The stickers I use, they're basically like blank little address envelopes, just really tiny stickers that I can pigeon scratch something in on and then stick it to the sheet in the right place.
Like an annotation.
Absolutely.
Embers.
Yes.
Snacks keep you powered during D&D. What is your favorite D&D snack?
So initially, when I started playing around a table or in a basement with friends, it was all stuff that comes in a loud, crinkly package. It was cookies, chips, Mountain Dew or Surge, soda, and that was it. But since going digital, I've had to sort of tone it down with the chips because it drives people crazy justifiably. So I pretty much decided stick with what you're good at, so I just eat. So it's all cookies. It's all cookies as far as the eye can see.
Really?
Yes. Like chocolate chip?
Chocolate
or
chip.
like
Peanut
yeah,
butter.
they're pretty good.
You gotta mix it up a little bit. And honestly, I kind of have stopped drinking like soda or coffee. I drink just like tea or water because if you're doing a lot of talking for a lot of hours, I find that actually helps you keep your voice going.
Definitely. Cupcake, what about you?
I am the person that absolutely loathes using push to talk, so I leave my mic on. So I usually try and get set up with things like if I've got a bag of something, it's open, but I get a huge thing of like black tea with a little bit of honey in it, and that's essentially all I rock. However, if it's an in-person game and I have people over, I use that opportunity to get a veggie tray because my husband's allergic to fresh vegetables and they go bad otherwise.
Gotcha. I think my favorite snack that I've ever had that I have ever consumed. I know, it's a bold statement.
Here we go.
That I've ever consumed during the playings of the D&Ds was a snack tray of popcorn and cherries.
Oh.
And water. Oh my god, like the sweet and the salty, and I felt okay eating the cherries and I felt terrible eating the popcorn, but it was okay. They canceled each other out.
Sounds tasty.
Snacks are super important to keep your blood sugar up during games and to keep you, awake and alive. So, there's nothing better than some nice crunchy snacks during the D's and D's.
Yes, treat yourself.
Fuel.
Treat yourself.
Fuel for that imagination machine.
The imagination machine craves glucose.
I would love to hear about if any of you have methods for tracking initiative order, because I know that some people can struggle with this. The way we did it in my 7-player campaign is that we had index cards with our character names on them, and we would rewrite the initiative every time we had to roll it. So like, let's say I got an 18, that would go in this stack, this phalanx of index cards from, you know, the highest initiative to the lowest initiative. So then it was really obvious to everyone at the table who was next, so you could prepare your action or whatever. And I have to say that worked pretty well for us. I know that, you know, Jerry uses the cute little initiative trackers that Clues made, and he puts them in order.
Right,
yeah.
Like the bookmark things.
I don't know what Chris Perkins does. I assume he just writes it down on a piece of paper somewhere.
Which, that's how I had always played it. But I think the biggest glaring difference with organization and how you set up how you are playing or what you're playing with is whether you're playing a physical game or if you're playing online.
That's 100% correct. I would love to come back to that. I have a question down the pipeline for that. But first, I really, really want to answer this question by X-Rainy Bard, who asks in the weekly question thread number 139, what are some good ways to store multiple sets of dice? I already have 2 dice bags. In the near future, I'll have around 80 dice altogether, which I use often because I DM newbie games every now and then. Thought about using hardcover pen case for this matter, but willing to hear other possibilities.
Well, so the first thing I really like about this question is the questioner has a plan for how many dice they will have in the future. Like, I've been
not just all of them that I can afford, because that's my plan.
The scatter plot shows me at about 80 dice at the end of this calendar year. It's a good question. I'm in the same boat as the questioner, at least I was for a really long time. Just big bags of dice, and when you go to play, whether you're DMing or playing a game, you don't really know what's in there. It's just like a bottomless pit. I've done a couple of things. I've had mini dice, you know, the ones that are kind of like they're like the size of a blueberry, I guess. They're really little ones.
Oh, wow.
What? Yeah, you can go to a couple of dice shops now and you can get some really small mini dice. They'll have the full set, so like 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 20. But they'll be small enough that you can actually fit them in one of those little drugstore day-to-day medication cases.
Huh.
So that is tip number 1.
Nice.
Other than that, you can go to the Container Store where the world is your oyster. The only other go-to I have where all my dice actually sit, the Container Store will sell you, and I'm sure you can find online, they're like little suitcases, but they're plastic, and they have a little door that swings open, and you can set your own compartments inside that little suitcase shape. So I've got that for, you know, Magic the Gathering cards, and I have it for dice. And it's incredibly noisy to walk around with it, but it stays closed, and I know that all my D4s are in one place, all my D20s are in another place, because mixing dice is chaos.
I have seen a couple of different things. I only have 2 sets, and one is kind of like a hodgepodge where you go through and you picked your own. And then I got a really awesome set from Level Up Dice, which, by the way, if you buy a set from them, they will give you a little mini dice bag.
Nice.
So my little OCD is I have all of my pretty ones that are like in the same place. But I've seen, and I think it was Mazmataz, maybe, that she had made a dice bag that had multiple compartments inside of it.
I believe it was Maz, yes. Ooh. Smart. Very,
so
very
it was
smart.
it was like a drawstring.
That's so on point.
It's super nice. And then I have also seen, I want to call it a tackle box, but it's not really a tackle box. It's almost like a bead box,
I think it's like
guess.
a bead. I know what you're talking about. I've seen 2 people recently use them. I think it's like a bead box.
And then I guess you could either divide them by type, like have all of your D4s so that they don't touch your D12s and you don't have extra little babies. Or you can...
That's where dice come from,
keep
didn't
by
you
set.
know? It's those D4s and those D12s.
I will only accept a
D4
that comes from one D4 and another D4. That's how
well,
D4
good luck
should
with
be
that.
made. Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, good luck with that. I like the bead boxes because they're clear usually. At least they seem maybe not perfectly clear, but they're transparent, so you can kind of see what you know what you're going for before you open it, or you're like, oh, that's my dice thing. I need to bring that with me. So I like that.
Yeah, I had actually gotten one that I'm currently using for nail polish. Don't judge me.
No judgment.
But it's got nice long containers to it, and they're fairly deep, and then they have a larger one down the middle, so if you wanted to throw in your pens, your pencils, your minis, that kind of stuff, it's got 2 sides, and then it's also got a little handle, so it'd be nice to eat and easy to bring with you.
Have any of y'all seen jewelry boxes used for this?
Not as much.
I guess it would depend, I guess, on the size of the jewelry
that's
box
true.
and
That's
the type.
true.
So let me explain to you my dice situation. I wouldn't say it's atypical. I would say it's probably standard deviation from the norm. I have probably like a fist size or a little bit bigger wallet, which is cat head shaped. It's got 2 little cat ears and the zipper has a cat tail on it, which I use for my main dice. I have probably 4 sets of dice in there. And then I have these really awesome topaz stone dice that I got at PAX Unplugged.
Oh,
they
yeah.
are so sexy. They are in those weekly medicine distribute things, one in each little container.
Yes.
Because I don't want those stones to chip or crack or anything. And actually, I was really leery of using those dice for a long time, but I think they actually work perfectly with my Circle of the Spore druid. So they are getting some use now. So
On brand.
that's my dice. Yeah, I know.
That's awesome.
All right. So the next question is really pertinent to online versus in person, and I think it's a really interesting question. This next question was submitted by Jeff Adam DM. Battle maps. Do you use them? I have always been a fan of theater of the mind style of play, but recently I have started playing a game online on Roll20, and I have found that using battle maps and minis to be really handy. It's starting to change my opinion of using minis and maps in a session. If you don't use them, how do you handle combat? I have some thoughts about this. For a long time when I started playing, I really needed a map. Like, I needed to know where people were, I needed to know where the enemy was, I needed to know what I was hitting and how far it was away. I've loosened up a little, as I've gotten older, and played more and learned more about how the game works. But I think when you're learning or, just starting to play, at least for my personality type, it really helped to know exactly where things were.
I agree 100%. I think when I was getting started, especially when I came back to starting to play digitally, I was very much dependent on a map. I really stressed out if I didn't have access to one. I still find them very helpful on digital games, which is where I play these days, at least, almost exclusively. But I don't need them every session, or I don't need them for every part of an adventure. When spatial distances and orientation matters, it's great. It can also be great when you can add to the flavor of the experience with something that's particularly thematic, or I guess if there's a lot of impact to the environment, that can certainly help. When I GM games, it could be anything from a map to nothing to almost like a PowerPoint presentation of like atmospheric scenery.
Ooh.
Which,
like in the Roll20 interface?
Yeah. I'll just kind of put that up and leave it up, and it could come off as totally stupid. The people I was GMing at the time seemed to enjoy it. They might have just been trying to placate me, so I didn't.
I have to say, I'm sitting probably right in that zone right now where, like, I just want to sort of give a feeling of the setting and then, get into it with my descriptors and things like that.
Mm-hmm. I think you do your best, and I think that they certainly can help. They can certainly be a lot of work for the GM if you want them to be.
True.
Like sometimes I was DMing one adventure where the players miniaturized and like Fern Gully style went inside a dungeon that existed inside of a crystal.
Ooh.
And so all of the maps were actually high magnification microscopic cross sections of a crystal that I would take.
Oh my goodness.
And I would like Photoshop out the different rooms and all that kind of stuff. That's where I spend my time, apparently.
That actually sounds really almost novel and cool, and I like anything that sort of connects to the natural world. So that sounds awesome.
Sweet.
I wanted to, in this question, I sort of wanted to address, online versus in person. We did outline things you need for an in-person game, but these all have counterparts in the digital world. So for example, if you're playing on Roll20 or you're playing online, there's some places, you want to find the places that have automatic dice rolling options. and the character sheet's built in so that you can click on things and your abilities work. This all happens in Roll20, so you already have, you know, your dice set and your character sheet. You know, the basic rules can be found online, or you can have your player's handbook with you. They also have the compendium that doesn't have everything, but it does have the majority of the rules that you need. So that's really, I think, the beauty of the online interfaces, besides giving more people the chance to play, is that it combines all these things. So you just go there and it's a one-stop shop, if you will.
Yeah, with that and D&D Beyond, which I've played with it. I've had a couple people that when I've talked to them about it, they were kind of a little, we'll use the word apprehensive, which I don't understand why, because if you're new to making a character, it is so helpful.
It is.
And it helps walk you through everything. Yeah. So like when I'm playing in our game, I've got 2 computer monitors because I'm that person.
You're all of us, Cupcake. You're all of us.
I've got my D&D Beyond thrown up on one, and I've got my game up on the other. And I can go back and forth with them. I can play with it. But I also, and I had a picture up on my Twitter of what I look like. My desk is currently covered in spell cards.
Nice.
Yes.
And the handbook, and I still have a physical sheet on top of the one that I'm looking at, because I'm the person that, even if it is all digital, I like to have some physical things in front of me.
I agree.
I think so.
It's almost like decadent.
I mean,
like, I can just flip over this page. I can scribble all over this. I definitely like the physical contact for some things. I agree with you.
I also really enjoy when, you know, on the streams that I watch, when the players either use something physical on the table or make a gesture or suggestion that they're that they're interacting physically with an object. For the first episode of the new season of Critical Role, there was one point where I believe it was the Caleb character like picked up the flagon on his desk. No, it was Ford. He picked up the flagon on his desk and like swigged out of it like he was like actually at the tavern where they were staying. And I think it's really, really helpful with immersion. And so I just love when people like gesture, like I'm actually here. I'm able to touch this thing, you know?
I am said character.
Yes. I have to say that the maps that I have enjoyed using in the past are the dry erase maps that I'm pretty sure WotC sells them, but they're like paper that's been coated, and they have the 5 by 5 foot by 5 foot grid in, I think it's inches. It's a standard grid.
Yeah.
And you can just draw on them with dry erase and wipe them off, and it's really useful. They come in different terrains. They come in like forest, and they come in grasslands, and they come in like ice lands. So they're pretty cool. I
think they have a sand one too.
It could be,
right?
yes, very likely.
So I think I've seen a yellow
Yeah.
one. I think I've played only a handful of physical games, and the gentleman that DM'd for us, he did a lot of his stuff on his computer, but he had a map there, and in one of the games, we went into this dungeon, and depending on what room you went into, the whole flippin' thing moved, so it was essentially index cards.
Nice.
Oh.
So he would, like, move the index cards.
That's cool.
I don't know. I guess it depends on what kind of game you're playing and what kind of people you're playing with.
Yeah.
If they're not incredibly imaginative, they might need a little help.
Well, I personally have a long-term life goal bucket list type dream. So I try to follow as voraciously as I can the people who do fan art for the streams I like, the people who contribute art to Wizards of the Coast for whatever their products, and just the people who are active in fantasy arts. And some of them are map makers. So there are a couple of map makers out there who like, God, someday when I strike it big and I'm living on an island covered in gold, I'll try to get like a commissioned map set from some of the people who do work out there. It's amazing. And it's kind of hypnotic to watch. Some of them do stream. It's kind of amazing.
Embers, you mentioned an island covered in gold. Are you really a dragon in disguise?
Well, that's the great thing. That's the great thing about the internet.
Are you a chromatic dragon or a metallic dragon? Because it's very important.
Well, you have picked up on a heavy current of hoarding in my life, so definitely points for that. But the beauty of the internet is you can really adopt the body positive image that you yearn for. I am a boring vanilla white guy trapped in a red dragon's body.
I see. Well, we'll help you with that curse one day. I'm sure.
Oh my gosh. And on that note,
let's answer another question. This next question was submitted by Peachman DM. What are some DM tools of the trade that you couldn't live without? I've DM'd twice, so I'm a bit of a noob. So what are your essentials when making a campaign, character stories, or any interesting or helpful products I could buy? Anything you either of you have seen that you would recommend?
Well, digitally, finding an environment is really helpful. Roll20 for me, in the little DMing that I've done, I've found very, very helpful. Not everybody's going to go digital. Not everybody wants a premium subscription to another website, but for me, that's helped a lot.
I know there's also like text-based services. I don't know what they're called off the top of my head, but instead of like the whole kit and caboodle, you can have just, a text room and digital dice, and you would, take turns typing and taking your turn and things like that.
Very true. Very true. You can do it. You can be very low tech. You can go to freeconferencecalls.com or whatever and set up a conference call.
Could be.
Everybody just kind of runs it on their phones.
I mean, I've never DM'd, but I think you need to find something that works for you. Some people like to have things all written out for them. I mean, do you want to have cool character miniatures? Do you even care about that? Is
Yeah.
Like, what's awesome about Dungeons and Dragons is it is whatever you decide to make it.
I have to say, in the long campaign that I was in, the most exciting and amazing thing was when the DM brought out the Tiamat mini, the statue that Wizards of the Coast released.
Oh, that's awesome.
That we could fight. It was so awesome. We were like, oh my god, it's Tiamat. She's here. We're fucked.
This is happening.
This is really happening. That was really awesome. And I know that not everyone can afford Tiamat. She's actually I think she's really expensive, but it was just so awesome that like we had finally gotten like through the whole campaign and we were like at the end and like there she was in the flesh.
I think one thing that I was going to say is if the situation I've been in, the few times that I've DM'd, I've been DMing for relatively new adoptees of Dungeons and Dragons. One of the things that as a DM I've found very helpful is whether it's in person and physical or if it's on like a Roll20 kind of thing. If you have a visual component, I've actually found that just kind of like a digital monster manual, even if it's not the official Wizards of the Coast sanctioned artwork for monsters, having big, high-res, highly emoting monster or creature or critter imagery helped me in the storytelling, and I think it might have helped to immerse them a little bit.
Yeah.
It's cool.
That's what I got.
That's cool. Here is a fun question to wrap up our bevy of questions, and it was submitted by Alec the Asian. I have some extra cash, and I have everything necessary for playing. What are some of your favorite unnecessary accessories? I think Tiamat, probably. Let's see. I mean, buildings. Like, you don't need buildings. Like, you can just draw building outlines. But, oh my gosh, Omu, like, on the Acquisitions Incorporated table was just amazingly gorgeous. And I hear that Matt Mercer has some pretty amazing buildings that he gets constructed for Critical Role.
Yeah, those ones that Chris Perkins commissions are always bomb.
That one, there was that temple with the acid. Yeah, bad memories. Yeah. But like the mini was really like the setting was very nice.
I got spell cards. So I got the arcane set and then I got the racials as well. Not necessary, but it's kind of nice, especially with my little arcane trickster since she can only have spells from like certain schools of magic. Being able to divide them out so that I can look at them all easier. That's been really cool and helpful.
Excellent.
One thing I did once as a DM for my characters for the PCs. For the holidays, I got them commissioned kind of portraits for each of their characters. Just they've been playing for a little while, and they had an image in their head, and so I just kind of asked them to send me a half page just describing. I was like, look, I'm going to walk into a tavern and I'm going to see your character. What do I see? And they did a great job. It was really, really visual language. And so I went to one of the bajillions of super talented, incredible artists in the Twitterverse and got some commissioned pieces done.
That's nice.
That's really awesome.
I have to say, perhaps the most worthwhile investment I've made for my D&D playing is a backpack with a binder in it. And this backpack can fit at least my player's handbook and like maybe my monster manual and the binder and my dice. And I keep my character sheets in a 3-ring binder. I hole punch the 3-ring holes in them, and I have them all ready. And that's where they are, so I don't lose them. If I have the binder, I have my characters. And that's going to be if I play in person. If I'm playing online, it's going to be in Roll20. And actually, I just wanted to make one brief comment about D&D Beyond, going back to Cupcake's point earlier. D&D Beyond is so useful for multi-classing. Like, it's so hard for me to figure out what hit points you're supposed to have.
Yeah.
If you're multi-classing, D&D Beyond will just give it to you. So I will often make a character up in D&D Beyond, especially if it's a little bit more complicated, and then I will write a character sheet out based on what they give me, and that'll go right in my binder.
Yeah, I didn't realize that you had used a binder, and since my desk is kind of a mess with all of the characters, especially with one-shots, that you roll this character and, hey, I kind of liked you. I think I'm going to keep you around. I'm going to have to adopt the binder.
It good. And then, like, you can put, like, other sheets in there. At one point, I was getting magical item cards that I could stick in there, too. I had a list of all the beasts that Jerica could turn into. Yeah, it was all good. Binders. They'll save your life. Yeah. All right, let's wrap this up. Thank you all so much for joining us for this episode. We would like to thank Vinsvept for our theme music called Never Stand Alone. And, of course, the stellar Amy T. Falcone for our social branding and adorable faces. Without you, we would not have faces. Thank you.
Answering your cues from our collective A's.
This
was
Insight Check.
Jerry, I'm sorry, I don't know where you're gonna fit this in, but I gotta do my turtle voice for Air, because he's sick. And I have to say, as my turtle character, that tea is really the best beverage. Anyway, enough of that.